Living with less, sharing with more, closer to nature. We are New Knowledge. This is a theoretical project proposing a radical piece of ongoing research, building our design think tank. We seek to challenge the orthodoxies of how we all live in London. Our format. We will run through our process from analysis to site selection and developing new knowledge into a continuous story resulting in an architecture. Let's start with community. Our site is located in London on the River Lee. In our previous symposium, we analysed the floating community that inhabits the river, their living situation, and their surroundings, using this knowledge as a reference for a new lifestyle. Our understanding of the boating community can be categorised into living with less, sharing with more, and being closer to nature. Here is our site in Clapton. Over the past 250 years, our site has witnessed a change from romance to industry to neglect. The River Lee, a small river feeding the Thames, transporting goods. A man-made waterway is dug, connecting the site directly to central London. After a cholera outbreak, large filter beds were built using reeds to clean the water. Sewage advancements left the filter beds redundant, and wildlife began to flourish here. Then half of the site was concreted over, and today the site is a depot with the filter beds of the past lying underneath. Lea Bridge Road is well connected to both Clapton and Leighton. Walking routes weave around the site. Cycle routes run along the towpath. Nearby parks provide space for walking dogs and jogging. On the site we found an engineer's house, an art and crafts brick building, an octagonal warehouse, the filter beds, the cobbled pedestrian bridge, and ornate cast iron details. We want to highlight points made to us in the last symposium. Where is the story? Deborah Saunt. David Conn. What if there's a problem with how we all live? Could we all be thinking more like the people who move and therefore more likely travel with less and are by necessity required to treat a domestic setting in a careful way? Now we'll take you on a journey. Let's start with sharing with more through an industrial proposal. She arrives by bike, alerting others of her arrival from the noise of her footsteps on gravel. She is welcomed by a protective resident goose. A swift maneuver of key to lock, overlooked by workers' windows, her bike is safe. An unusually early drop-off from the waste material vans reaffirms that the day will be busy. As she steps over the DIY paving, she is reminded of when she laid down these earthly materials. A swipe through the gates, dappled light from the skylights floods the atrium. It's a warm welcome. Surprising an office romance with an apologetic hello. Up the staircase she goes, shaking hands with the building from the reclaimed leather-wrapped handrail. Background music plays. Work has begun. A sizzling hot espresso is needed. The public flow along on a raised path, giving division between public and private. Glass doors open up portals to various activities, from cleaning and sorting goods. Water is a sacred source. Wastewater is reused for plants. A factory flanked with wasted materials. A place for exchange, a place for change. Now, on to housing. He wakes up surrounded by thick earth walls. The window above connects him to the clouds and the trees. He steps into a private courtyard protected by the walls of his home. Greenery and the open air welcome him as he goes to wash. Vulnerable and half asleep, the walls of the shower hold him like a mother holds a baby. Light shoots through the space, waking him. Steam rises, heating the dressing space above. He makes his way up winding stairs. They close in around him. He stands naked, looking out to the trees, remaining hidden from people walking below. The form holds him again as he dresses. The stairs widen as he descends, releasing him into the morning room. Close neighbours also enter the space. The morning room is brighter, grander, and rewards the friends for having breakfast together. Light from the large glazed ceiling wake them as they gather. They care for plants and monitor energy. A display for shared belongings surround them. A corridor leads to an open courtyard on the edge of a shared footway. The day continues. eventually reaching evening. He returns home to prepare food. Today, he cooks with his neighbour, sharing stories, recipes and knives. They move to the grandest of all their shared spaces, the dining hall. Big tables earlier used for homework and games are now full of food and surrounded by people. The grand room rewards them again for being together. The morning room is now an evening room holding young parents and their wine. He moves into a lower private space decorated with sentimental items. A small window connects him to the footsteps outside while protecting his privacy. Above him is a deck to overlook activity below. When ready for bed, earth walls ground him. Finally, landscape. A Saturday afternoon, she cycles from a busy road. A brick house with large brick chimneys becomes visible. Stepped seating filled with people connect the house to the river below. A wide gate welcomes her in. In the ground, an old piece of railway hints to an industrial past. She leaves her bike and walks across the cobbles. She discovers a square displaying a range of activities. Children play in the distance. Old warehouses line the square. Arched windows release echoes of woodwork from within. She moves to the stepped playground by the edge of the river. Water crashes down around children playing, overlooked by balconies of modest homes. The cobbled path transitions to softer ground as she moves through the housing. On the edge of the water, she hears the river. Walking past allotments, she hears a bird song. Turning the corner, a small bridge crosses the waterway. The handrails are wooden and soft. An avenue of trees leads her from the bridge to another remnant of an industrial past. A tall tower of activity stands over the water where boats are docked. Moving closer, she sees the falling water of the weir, powering the tower and charging the boats. How can we apply these experiences architecturally? We tested several iterations of our sharing, living, and landscape areas on the site. First, we take the shape of the historical reedbed below and fill this with housing. Next, applying a grid to the site, maximum homes but minimum connectivity to the water's edge. Then, cutting canals through the site using the shape of the reedbed below. Drawing water through half of the site and floating homes above. Taking the longest edge of the waterfront and applying housing to it. Then, considering viewpoints from walking routes, the houses are arranged along streets with shared gardens. The industry is connected to the housing through a maker's square and a playground. The industry and public spaces. Deliveries enter, sorted and filed to be processed, looking at the Shaker community on how they promote reusing items. Flowing through the design lab, public are overwhelmed by creative activity. The architecture hits these various SDG goals. Inspired by a new lab in Brooklyn Yard, the public flow towards the cafe, inspired by the Lisbon Time Out Market. A local bandstand, a platform for local artists, a wide public square like Gillette Square in Dalston, a great place for people to be immersed in. First floor, promoting new knowledge to the public about recycling wasted materials. Housing. Our concept contains 4 dwellings with 4 typologies: a family, a couple, a single occupant, and an unknown resident, as we don't want to socially engineer this. There is no hierarchy between the dwellings. Each dwelling is arranged around a private courtyard, promoting outdoor living. Private spaces are embedded below ground level. The morning room is the first level of integration with your immediate community, with glazing and shared storage. Whilst the plan recognises the importance of privacy, it also promotes interaction through the provision of shared spaces, similar to life on the river. A first floor, a balcony references a boat's deck. The plan spreads, allowing views between dwellings and alcove spaces for growing, encouraging residents to inhabit the public frontage. We aim to blur the distinction between nature and architecture with buildings made using natural materials that sit below the tree line. And to the in-between spaces, we have 4 entry points. The first connects to a public square, Granary Square, Gillett Square and Spitalfields Market gave you a sense of scale. Past the square are the children's play areas. To the north, we have reinstated the old filter beds, creating an avenue of trees leading to a sculpture park. Connecting to the south, the peninsula and warehouse are reimagined to promote waterside activity. Throughout streets, leading through vibrant living communities, the dining halls are shared between 4 clusters. The public are invited to use these spaces. These clusters have the potential to grow in density. To conclude, in order to challenge the orthodoxies of living in London, one has to balance the notions of radical living with sustainability. Change is needed. From doing to being, from planet as resource to loving partner, from lifeless materials to materials with life. This theoretical project references equal and encourages integral thinking. Our aims of moving the project forward are stories and myths. We aim to develop a deep sense of culture and history. The architecture should heighten our awareness of our surroundings through narrative and metaphor. Natural environment. Not only should the buildings be sustainable through embodied energy and efficiency, they should be interconnected through a symbiotic relationship with nature. Connectivity with responsibility. We aim to foster activity within the community through the design of shared spaces. We want to encourage people to take care of others and prevent detachment. Through the romance of our site, the boating community and the new knowledge gathered, we have generated poetic and symbolic journeys, which have in turn built our architecture. We're proposing a new way of living in London through encouraging living with less, sharing with more, and connecting with nature. To enable such a lifestyle, these 3 elements must be intrinsically linked, and therefore it is this connection that our think tank aims to explore further.